Alrighty, everyone. It is Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. I am Michael Winkler, and this is the Mike Wink Show. So we're going to hop right into it today to continue the Israel-Iran saga that is on day 5 or 6 or something like that. I don't know. To recap, basically up until this point, Israel and Iran have been poking each other, flinging missiles and dropping bombs at each other. And it seems like Iran has gotten absolutely pimp-slapped, and that Iran has gotten absolutely bodied, and that it's already GG, right? What I covered yesterday was Israel has full air supremacy over Tehran, the capital of Iran, which is where a lot of their military and governmental infrastructure is. If they have full air supremacy over Tehran, it's really, truly GG for Iran. There's no way that they could seriously expect to resist whatever. Israel could do whatever they want now. They could decide we're just, all right, guys, you've learned your lesson. They could back off, or they could do full regime change. And I don't really think there's much that Iran could do to stop that. And as a result, I think Iran realizes they're backed into a corner. And so now they're going to just start whining and crying and saying, oh, but please don't come in and help Israel. But please don't help them overthrow our government. Those missiles we sent over there, they were just a joke. It was just a joke, guys. It was just a social experiment. It was just a prank. So that's kind of where we're at. We're at the Iran realizes they're losing, so they're going to start just crying part. Trump weighs 3 military options as Iranian supreme leader declares the battle begins and warns Israel about great surprise that the world will remember for centuries. So this gives me I'm going to shoot a nuke vibes, this statement, but like I don't think that they actually want to shoot a nuke. I think they realize how bad that would be. I hope they realize how bad that would be. Iran's supreme leader issued a series of apocalyptic warnings as U.S. President Donald Trump weighs 3 military options for U.S. in the ongoing war. In the name of the noble Haydar, the battle begins, referring to Ali, whom Shia Muslims consider the first imam and the rightful successor to the Prophet Muhammad. Khamenei also shared a separate message in English saying we must give a strong response to the terrorist Zionist regime. He added, we will show the Zionists no mercy. Meanwhile, Iranian state television ominously reported that tonight a great surprise will occur, one that the world will remember for centuries. Amid the threats, Trump is said to be considering a U.S. strike on Tehran following a Situation Room crisis talk with security advisors. Trump was given 3. I'm honestly a little bit surprised the U.S. already hasn't jumped in. I mean, we might be helping them. I'm sure we're helping them logistically on the back end in some kind of way. But it kind of surprises me that we don't have boots on the ground, our ordnance in the air, because, Israel, one of our closest allies, just got multiple humongous missile attacks shot at it from Iran, who's longtime one of our enemies and one of Israel's enemies. So I'm honestly kind of surprised we haven't jumped in yet. I think if this was 30 years ago, we would have jumped in already. I think the only reason we haven't is because of the public's distaste for how we handled many of our other excursions into the Middle East, Iraq, Afghanistan, and whatnot. Trump was given 3 options by advisors about how this article is like, nobody spell checked this article whatsoever. Trump was given 3 options by advisors about how they should target largest military in history. This is the worst written article ever. Seriously, Daily Mail is an absolute slot publication. Who reads this? Why am I reading this? Trump was given 3 options by advisors about how the largest material in history. Oh, it hurts. I can't even read it. Trump was given 3 options by advisors about how the largest military in history should assist Israel in demolishing Iran's nuclear program, according to the New York Times. That's when Trump was provided with 3 military options to assist Israel in their bombing campaign against Iran's nuclear threat, the Times said. The first and most basic option was the U.S. providing intelligence and jets for refueling Israeli airplanes on bombing missions along. This article, who wrote this article was Google translated from like 6 different languages. Who wrote this article? Seriously. And I'm also shocked that we aren't already doing that. I bet we already are doing that to some extent. The second option included American and Israeli joint strikes on Iran. The most hawkish option provided a plan for a U.S.-led military campaign that included B-1 and B-2 bombers, aircraft carriers, and cruise missiles launched from submarines, the Times reported. 4 U.S. B-52 Stratofortress bombers have already been stationed at the Diego Garcia base in the Indian Ocean within striking distance of Iran. The B-52, which can carry nuclear weapons or other precision-guided bombs, were spotted on a runway at Diego Garcia on Monday. While those are being deployed, Trump urged Iran's unconditional surrender and even issued a death threat to Khamenei after he abruptly left the G7 summit in Canada. He said the U.S. knows where the supreme leader is hiding out, but doesn't want him killed for now. We know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding, the U.S. president wrote on Truth Social. He is an easy target, but is safe there. We are not going to take him out, at least not for now. I mean, I believe that. I believe with the United States satellite and surveillance capabilities, it would not surprise me if they know exactly where he is. And also know, like, we probably could kill him if we wanted to. But we don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin, Trump warned. The president also spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Tuesday, though it remains unclear what the two world leaders discussed as drone strikes between Israel and Iran continued for a 5th consecutive day. Both Israel and Iran launched fresh strikes at each other overnight, as Iran's Revolutionary Guard said it launched a more powerful new wave of missiles at Israel. Yet General Abdul Rahim Mousavi, the commander-in-chief of Iran's army, claimed that all of the attacks carried out so far have been solely for the purpose of warning and deterrence. The punishment operation will be carried out soon, he warned. Bruh, oh my God. That is them realizing we've lost, and so we are just going to lie and try and chest puff. This is pure chest puffing. They shot hundreds of ballistic missiles at Israel. There's no way that they could claim that this is just like, oh yeah, this was just a deterrence. This is like when you get into an argument with somebody and you pull out a knife or a gun or something to try and deter them from attacking you or something. Like, no, this was you attacking them. This wasn't like what. This was very overtly a very strong-armed attack from Iran to Israel. How could they possibly what? This is them trying to pretend like they have more in the tank when really they don't. They know they've just gotten absolutely bodied, and that there's nothing that they can really do besides like pretend that they didn't just get bodied. Israel's military said it killed Iran's wartime chief of staff and carried out extensive strikes on Iranian military targets. The International Atomic Energy Agency even reported that there appears to have been a direct impact on Iran's Natanz nuclear facility. The hostilities first erupted on Friday when Israel launched a massive preemptive strike on Iran, hitting nuclear and military facilities and killing top military brass and nuclear scientists. Iran has claimed its nuclear program is peaceful, and the U.S. and others have assessed that Tehran has not had an organized effort to pursue a nuclear weapon since 2003. That is not what my assessment... Wait. Where is this article getting this from? Iran has claimed its nuclear program is peaceful, and the U.S. and others have assessed that Tehran has not had an organized effort to pursue a nuclear weapon since 2003. Well, wait, hold on. But isn't the IAEA report from 2023 and from June 12th of this year directly go against that? I feel like whoever wrote this article, I mean, it shouldn't surprise me with the spelling and grammar errors of this article that whoever wrote it isn't the most well-studied person. But, like, I'm assuming whoever wrote this article is not aware of the IAEA's reports from 2023 and more recently regarding Iran's proliferation of nuclear materials and enrichment of plutonium and uranium and whatnot. But the IAEA has repeatedly warned that the country already has enough enriched uranium to make several nuclear bombs. U.S. President Trump has repeatedly argued that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and members of his administration were set to meet with their Iranian counterparts to iron out a new deal in which the country would not develop any nuclear weapons in exchange for sanctions relief when Israel attacked. Okay, so it seems like they were trying to negotiate some sort of pseudo-Iran nuclear deal. This, hilariously, the exact same one that Trump pulled us out of. So it's almost like the exact same thing with NAFTA, right? He destroyed NAFTA and then signs a bill that's basically NAFTA 2.0. And the trade terms and conditions within NAFTA 2.0 were even worse, as far as I understand. But let's put that aside for a second. He got rid of NAFTA and then basically signed NAFTA 2.0 and then was just like pretending like, oh, look at this thing I did. Oh my God, it's so great. It's like the same exact thing here, right? He destroys the Iran nuclear deal and then he comes in on his second term and is like, hey guys, can we do a nuclear deal? It's just like, bruh. Trump has since said he does not believe Israel will slow its assault on Iran. As Yashel Leiter, the Israeli ambassador to the U.S., said, this is the war to end wars. This is the war to endanger peace in the Middle East, he added. Harking back to the audacious bombs and pagers plot against Hezbollah last year, Mr. Leiter said, we've pulled off a number of surprises. When the dust settles, you're going to see some surprises on Thursday night and Friday that will make the beeper operation almost seem simple. Oh, interesting. When the dust settles, you're going to see some surprises on Thursday night and Friday that will make the beeper operation almost seem simple. Right now, it is Wednesday, June 28th. So based on everything that the Supreme Commander, Leader, Supreme Dick Suck, Ayatollah Khamenei, or whatever, the Iranian dude, saying, oh, we're going to do something that you guys are going to remember for centuries. And Israel is talking about doing some like special operation, some special like secret thing on Thursday or Friday. Shows to me like really in the next tomorrow or Friday, we might see some serious shit happen in Israel, Iran. We might see the U.S. officially enter in as a player in this war and choose that third route that this article talked about, the most extreme one where we come in boots on the ground, bombers in the air. And do full-on regime change in Iran. Honestly, I feel like that would fit with the ethos of this administration really well. And also with Trump's position. Trump is probably to some degree aware that he's a very unpopular president at this point. He's the most unpopular president ever at this point in his administration. What are we, like 4 months in or something? And so I think to some extent he understands that this is his last term and that this is his chance to cement a legacy. And I think all of his attempts to become president are attempts to cement legacy, but I think he understands the dynamic that being in a war plays for a president. It can be very beneficial to one's legacy and to their current popularity to be in a war. And so I think he probably and he always thinks about things from a very like purely selfish perspective. I imagine he sees it as beneficial personally for the U.S. to go into war, that his approval ratings will go up, that his legacy as a president might be seen more favorably if they were to, I don't know, do some big war or something and topple Iran or help Israel or something. I don't know. We'll see, though, Thursday or Friday. In the next couple of days, we might see some interesting stuff happen. Because it seems like Iran is absolutely flailing right now. They've gotten bodied, and so they're just spazzing out. They don't know what to do. Foreign Affairs Minister Gideon Saar also noted that Israel's goals were to severely damage the nuclear program, the ballistic missile program, and to severely damage Iran's plans to eliminate the State of Israel. That seems pretty reasonable to me. If Iran, one of the most wealthy, powerful governments in the entire world, is just like 2 countries over, right? They're on the other side of Syria, I'm pretty sure. Is telling you, hey, we're going to wipe you off the face of the earth when we have plans to do so. And here's our plans to do so. And then there's outside agencies like the third-party International Atomic Agency, Energy Agency, corroborating these claims. I think it's completely reasonable for Israel to go like, hey, guys, maybe we should do something about this before they do something. The best defense is a good offense sometimes. Israel would be greatly helped in those efforts if the United States did get involved, as American GBU-57 bunker buster bombs are capable of striking deep underground, raising the possibility it could penetrate the Fordow nuclear enrichment site buried deep in a mountain south of Tehran. The United States also already has a carrier strike group in the Eastern Mediterranean, including an aircraft carrier, the USS Carl Vinson, with 9 squadrons of fighter jets, as well as frigates and destroyers. And as Trump continues to deliberate on his options, after previously saying it was possible that the United States get involved in the regional conflict, the Pentagon has sent more than 40 additional U.S. jets to UK and Europe. They are thought to include stealth bombers and air-to-air refuelers, which could be critical for any operation in the Middle East. The USS Nimitz aircraft carrier also headed to the region from the South China Sea Monday. Vice President J.D. Vance has since issued comments that appear to brace Trump supporters for possible military action. He may decide he needs to take further action to end Iranian enrichment, Vance said. I'm trying to think, am I in support of Israel and the United States jointly going together and taking out Iran's nuclear program? I think so. I think you could maybe make the government sovereignty argument, and that it's not right for them to go in and completely overthrow the government. I don't think that argument holds any water within the context of them being a theocracy. But if we're going to pretend like their sovereignty means something, then I would say that a good middle ground would be, all right, if we're going to allow the insane theocrats to have their own country, maybe we should take away their super dangerous weapon that could destroy the whole world. I think generally okay with that. I think with something like full-on regime change and government replacement, we have history to show that doesn't, at bare minimum, doesn't always work like you want it to, and probably more likely never really works like you want it to, and that the result following regime change is going to be worse than the regime that you changed from. But I don't think the same argument holds for trying to eliminate a nuclear program. I would imagine that is a completely separate beast, and that it is effective, that if you could destroy the facilities used to create these nuclear weapons inside Iran, that you would destroy the ability for them to create a nuclear weapon, or at least temporarily destroy their ability to do so, while also preserving their sovereignty as a nation or whatever. Like I've said, I think being a weird theocracy like that completely, like your right to sovereignty in that regard goes out the window. But let's pretend that it hasn't gone out the window. I think I would... Generally, I think I would be in favor of taking a nuclear weapon or the capability to make a nuclear weapon out of the hands of the insane Iranians. I'm okay with that. All right, so we're going to look at a little bit of footage from what's been going on. All right, so this footage is pretty crazy. It seems like Iran has their own like state TV news channel, sort of like, I guess the BBC is the British Broadcasting Corporation. That's the United Kingdom's state media. In the United States, we kind of have a couple of versions of that. We've got the PBS, we've got NPR. Iran, I guess, has their own sort of version of that, and my understanding is a bit more militarized than the examples I've just given, but that doesn't really matter. Iran has their own state TV media thing. So they Israel did an airstrike on the Iranian, like whatever building they're actually doing this live TV broadcast from. They hit it. And you'll see the video. The footage is pretty crazy. So this is live TV footage from Iran.
آنچه که ملاحظه کردید، صدایی که شنیدید، فضای غبارآلود استودیو.
I feel like they couldn't do this again if they tried. This is one of those like crazy timing, like if they did this, there's no way that they knowingly did this on purpose, right? Maybe they knew that the live broadcast was going on in this specific building and they hit this specific building for that reason. But I feel like it's just pretty crazy that there was a live broadcast going on. Then you get this like very cinematic, like just plume of smoke, and you can still see her empty desk chair sitting there, and the screen just goes black. And I don't know, it's just very like, there's something very, very cinematic about the way that looked. Let's go over a little bit more footage. So here is This is from the first day of strikes. So this is from Saturday. So Friday, Israel hit Iran. This is from Saturday when Iran hit Israel. So I tried to find footage from outside. So you see a lot of footage from inside of Israel. There's all sorts of different camera angles from both Haifa and Tel Aviv of multiple strikes coming in and successfully getting through the David's Arrow. Because I guess small side bit, Israel has two different missile defense systems. They have the Iron Dome, which is everybody's familiar with, but the Iron Dome is exclusively for short range little pot rockets. Stuff unguided stuff you'd make with like just pipes and whatever equipment that you can find. The kind of rockets that get shot from Gaza and from Hezbollah and whatnot. That's what the Iron Dome is for, but it doesn't protect against full-on big boy ballistic missiles that go like hypersonic and come in from thousands of kilometers away. Those use a completely different missile defense system called David's Arrow. And it's much less effective. It's much harder to hit a ballistic missile and knock it out of the air than it is one of these little pot rockets. And so that's why you're seeing a number of strikes get through. It's not because like the Israel's missile defense capabilities have been diminished. I mean, maybe some SAM turrets or missile defense, specifically turrets, have been hit. But the point is that like the David's Arrow missile defense system is not nearly as good as the Iron Dome, and that's not because it's not as well developed. It's just it's way freaking harder to knock a ballistic missile out of the air than it is a little pot rocket. But anyways, I was trying to find footage from Iran and from like you can see plenty of footage from the strikes within Israel, but you can't see all that much footage from strikes from within Iran. I think there's a number of different reasons for that. I think the culture is just different. There isn't as much of a culture of filming things, and maybe not as much of a prevalence of camera phones and outside reporting. Like news agencies are not allowed to go there. I'm pretty sure like the BBS. I read articles that talked about how the BBC and a number of these other international news agencies are having trouble getting their people into Iran, that Iran just is not letting people in to do reporting on what's been happening. And so it's harder to see what's been happening. So I did manage to find a few videos. I found this video from this is somebody in a plane that just happens to be over Saudi Arabia at the time that the missiles from Iran to Israel were shot. And it looks this video looks crazy, right? It's like an album. I feel like this could be an album cover or something. It looks absolutely insane. And it's cool how you can see the rockets get to their second stage. You see that little tiny extra explosion that happened in midair for that rocket, and then it kept going. I'm pretty sure that's the rocket reaching its second stage of flight. You can see it on all these. You can see the thicker white column of smoke, and then you can see the slightly thinner one after that. That's when the rocket reaches its second stage. These are high-tech guided, or at least semi-guided ballistic missiles. Look at that, though. That is a crazy sight. It reminds me so much of the album cover from what's it called? Noctourniquet. It looks like Mars Volta Noctourniquet album. Yeah, it looks like this. For some reason, this is reminding me so much. This is reminding me so much of this album cover from this album's really good. Band's really good. Mars Volta. Can't imagine having just an apartment here and then just, a couple blocks down, a freaking ballistic missile just falls out of the sky like that.
Allahu Akbar! بدماء قاسم سليماني، بدماء قاسم سليماني، بدماء أطفال غزة وأهل غزة. الله أكبر. أيوه 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 أيوه. هي الصوت كمان واحد فقع. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. أيوه أيوه أيوه. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الموت لأمريكا، الموت لإسرائيل، النصر للشعب والمسلمين. صوت الانفجارات. يا لبعث الحيدر، يا لبعث الحيدري. والمسلمين. يا الله، يا الله. الله أكبر. يا حسين. الله أكبر. محضر منظر يا الله. الله أكبر. نزل ضربوها. وصلوا. الله أكبر. وصلت. نزل. هي ضربوه. الرابع أيام العيد. اللهم انصر إيران. لبيك يا الإسلام. لبيك خامنئي. لبيك يا غزة.
Okay, so this isn't the type of thing I would typically show. I'm only showing this because I think there is some point to be made here. I will caveat, this is anecdotal or a one-off or whatever. This tiny segment I'm about to do doesn't really mean anything, but like, it is true. And people, I've met people that try and deny that this is the case, and it's quite frankly just so like, it shows that they have a misunderstanding of the situation when somebody says something like this. That like people in Gaza and Palestine and in Lebanon are like happy about this. They are rejoicing for this. And it's almost the same. I feel like it falls into the same lane as like what I talked about yesterday or a couple days ago, the mom in Iran and Tehran who lost all three of her kids in an Israeli airstrike, and she was happy. She probably wasn't really happy, but like the video was of her talking about being happy that they're being martyred, that they're going to paradise, that they've done a good thing, that they're going against the big bad evil Israel or whatever, and that they've done their duty in Islam and blah blah blah. People don't want to believe that those kind of people exist, but not only that those kind of people exist, but like that kind of mindset, that level of fanaticism and craziness is prevalent, especially in places like Iran. It may be even the norm. I don't know. Couldn't confidently say it's over 50%, but at least a humongous chunk of the people that live there are to that level of insanity. This goes against the victimhood narrative, I guess is what I'm going to say, is this cuts against the victimhood narrative that many in Lebanon and many in Gaza have somewhat successfully managed to paint and present, that big bad Israel is the one coming and oppressing them and doing all these bad things, and that we're just the little Gazans, we're just the well-meaning Lebanese and Gazan people, and we just want big bad Israel to go away. Well, that is true to some degree, but that isn't the whole picture, okay? And there's definitely a lot of cynical fanaticism, anti-humanism, and stuff like this, where like it is totally reasonable for the people inside Gaza. These people live in the West Bank, okay? These people don't live in Gaza. It's not like they've been personally displaced by bombing or anything like that, right? The West Bank is much closer to what Israel proper is than what Gaza is to Israel proper, right? Most of the West Bank settlements are like first world developed regular ass little towns. They're not like I used to not think that this was a thing, right? I used to think, I wouldn't be like this in this scenario, even though I was displaced and I've been a victim of this oppression and this bombing or whatever, that I would still be able to cling on to my humanity and not call for the death of Israelis or rejoice when bombs are dropped on Israel just in general. And I would hope that this would apply to most people, but I would think, and I'll give them a small pass, you know. I just can't help but think that Islam itself plays some role in facilitating this kind of like anti-humanism, this sort of, see the victory of Islam and Muslims, okay, that little second bit he said, I don't speak Arabic, and this could be a messed up translation or whatever, okay. Their anger towards America and Israel, first off, they're in the West Bank, okay, so it's a completely different dynamic than if they were in Gaza. So they're not experiencing anywhere near the same level of oppression or whatever. I don't think their justification in that regard is nearly as strong. But like, to the extent that they can have political opinions and not like America, not like Israel, and even called for their death or whatever, that's fine. But then the second part of this, I think, is really important. The victory of Islam and Muslims. I think to these people, to a lot of Arabs living in the Middle East, and I think this is just a relic of the lack of reformation I've talked about that Islam seems to have not gone through in comparison to Christianity and Judaism, that like the way they intertwine their culture, their everyday life and religion is just like on a whole nother level and uncomparable to what we see in the Western world. And I think it's antithetical. It doesn't comport, right? If your religion encourages martyrdom and jihadism, and these things have not been reformed out of the religion, and then you're going to try and stick it into a modern world, and like, it just doesn't work. Like, I just cannot help but think that the religious fanaticism present clearly in this video plays a humongous part in creating the emotion that this person and these people in this video are feeling. I don't know. I'm trying to think of the best way to articulate all this. It's just like, this is just gross, and nobody should be rejoicing at missiles successfully getting through a missile defense system anywhere, right? Just in the exact same way, I would think it's pretty gross for people in Gaza or the West Bank to be rejoicing if ballistic missiles make it through the Israeli missile defense system. I would think it's pretty fucking gross for an Israeli to be rejoicing that people in Tehran were getting bombed and that we have air supremacy over Tehran. And it's an unfortunate, horrible thing, but you shouldn't be rejoicing and happy. And the way that they're screaming Allahu Akbar, okay, I know that is an Arabic saying and that you could maybe create some sort of non-religious translation to English, but like that is an inherently very religious term, Allahu Akbar. And so I just cannot help but separate the religious fanaticism of the Arab world and like the way that they are handling this political situation, both on a personal level, as you can see in these people in this video, and a macro level, like the insane choice of Iran to just start shooting ballistic missiles out of Israel. All right, let's see some more. So it looks like this is footage, one of the few pieces of footage I've managed to find from within Iran, and I guess it's somebody who lives in Paran Shar, Western Iran, and this is footage of a ballistic missile base or storage facility that got hit. And you can hear all the ordnance, one after the other, all getting light up. This is crazy. So this is in Haifa. Haifa is a city on a hill, so it's like a giant, there's like the flat part by the sea, and then there's this massive hill, and then there's the rest of the city kind of up on top of the plateau. It looks like this guy is filming from like somewhere halfway up the hill. There's all sorts of apartment buildings and office buildings and stuff on the slope up to the plateau. It looks like he's filming from somewhere on the slope halfway up. The view from Haifa is one of the best views I've ever seen in my life. It's absolutely incredible. That's not the point.
מאיפה בתי זיקוק? וואו, יש פה נפילות. תראי. הנה, נפילות. להיות. וואו, בבתי זיקוק. וואו. בבתי זיקוק, אחי. כן. איזה סכנה.
You can hear the crazy delay in the time from when the bombs actually land to where the cameraman can hear and feel the impact. This is another crazy film. This is similar to the one we saw filmed from the plane flying over Saudi Arabia. This a bit less so. This still kind of reminds me of that Nocturnicate album cover, but a bit less so because it doesn't have the color gradient. Yeah, pretty crazy looking. Pretty crazy looking. Apparently, Iran has claimed it has successfully struck the Israeli military headquarters. They sometimes call it Mossad or whatever. I don't know. I can't confirm. I don't know enough if this is actually the building we're looking at. But apparently, this is footage of at least one of the direct missile hits on the Mossad military Israeli HQ. My first thought is there's absolutely no way any serious, like, they are well aware that they are a target for missile attacks and that anything above ground is liable or subject to be destroyed. So I would imagine any critical pieces of information or equipment or technology or personnel or anything is well underground of whatever facility this is. And so they can claim that they hit some building that was called the Israeli military HQ Mossad or whatever, but like I have no faith or belief that they've actually properly done any significant serious damage to the Israeli military's capability to leadership's ability to function. So here's footage. This footage looks like it's from pretty far away, maybe up on a hill looking down on a city. You can see at least 4 different sites. One of them's flashing, so it looks like that probably has ordnance or some sort of ammunition depot that they hit. But you can see at least 4 different sites that have been hit in this footage. I would imagine many more if there's that much smoke over the city. A couple more.
וואו, הנה זה מגיע, הנה המופע. וואו, הנה המופע. וואלה, חברו את התאורות של 11. תעשה את הטלפון שלך על השטות.
Man, these guys got balls of steel if they're because they're pretty close. I would still say they're very much still in Tel Aviv. So like to just be chilling on the rooftop, just like, yeah, okay, yeah, the missiles are coming in. Let's just hope they don't hit us. Crazy. So this article was released yesterday. So it seems like as a result of just getting absolutely bodied by Israel and just absolutely pimp slapped and destroyed within like 3 days of the conflict, it seems like at least somewhat internally they realize shit isn't going well. And in this article says Iranian crown prince urges uprising against collapsing regime. Reza Pahlavi, the exiled son of the last Shah of Iran, urged the country's security forces and state employees to rise up against the Islamic regime, whose fall has begun, in an address to the Iranian nation on Tuesday. My fellow countrymen, the Islamic Republic has reached its end and is in the process of collapsing, Pahlavi said in remarks in Farsi that were posted on his social media channels. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, like a frightened rat, has gone into hiding underground and has lost control, he stated. According to the Crown Prince, the end of the Islamic Republic is the end of the 46-year war against the Iranian nation that started in 1979. All it takes now is a nationwide uprising to put an end to this nightmare once and for all, he continued. Now is the time to rise and reclaim Iran. So the Shah, if I understand correctly, it says he is the I'll just wait. So my understanding is that Iran used to be at least somewhat secular country. They weren't always a hotbed of religious fanaticism. Government, because they wanted to nationalize the oil profits or whatever, they wanted to nationalize the oil production and then spread out the profits amongst the citizenry. And American interests were like, no, we don't want to do that. The homeboy, that's not going to make us money. We want to make money. And so ExxonMobil and all the companies that America is beholden to, they came in and overthrew the government and put in a stooge. Well, that stooge eventually got overthrown and then a theocratic religious fanaticism government took its place. Then I would imagine that at least there's still some amount of sentiment within the country to become that. So this doesn't seem like This is not ahistorical. This is historical. This lines up with my understanding of historical events within Iran and the United States and whatnot. All it takes now is a nationwide uprising to put an end to this nightmare once and for all, he continued. Now is the time to rise and reclaim Iran. Pahlavi noted that he prepared a 100-day transition plan for establishing democratic rule by the Iranian people and for the Iranian people. Play a historic role in the transition from the Islamic Republic and take part in building the future of Iran. In theory, in a vacuum, this sounds amazing, right? This addresses so many of the problems that I have with this situation, right? With the fact that Iran is a very unsavory theocracy, and to that extent, to the extent that theocracy is bad and is antithetical with our modern interpretation of humanism, of philosophy, and whatnot, that it needs to be completely rooted out. Ideally, completely rooted out from the human experience. We don't need I would argue we don't need religion at all, but we don't need religious fanaticism and theocracy in this sort of way, especially in such a way that restricts people and causes people to martyr themselves in the way that modern Islam does. And so in a vacuum, I'm cool with this, and I'm all hands on board. But really, this is just like a really nice way to present regime change, right? This is just regime change with some dressing on top. This is a very well-made regime change, but it's still regime change, right? A polished turd is still a turd. And so I'm still like, as much as everything I've read so far in this article, and I'm on board with getting rid of theocracy and replacing it with democracy and blah, 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 blah. It will still ultimately be seen as regime change, both externally and internally. And I would imagine that we would see similar results from other types of regime change. I think this sort of change is conceivable, but I think it would need to happen organically, right? And I don't think it being prompted by this attack from Israel is organic enough, right? You would still have so many people. So like, let's say you did this, you overthrew the government, and then you took this dude at his word and put him in place and is like, all right, dude, start making your government. You're still going to have, you may have some people that support it, but you're still going to have so many people, so many patriots inside Iran that are just upset at Israel for doing this, that they are going to see it as like a Israeli stooge. They're not going to, it's not going to be organic, and they're never going to get behind it. Their patriotism is going to like overshadow their ability to their desire for a democracy or a not having a theocracy or whatever. Well, I know that Iran can be great again. It was a great civilization, and this theological thuggery that has kidnapped your country will not stand for long, and you are the future, not them, Netanyahu said in a conversation with anchor Poria Zarati. These dictators in Iran, sure, they fear us, but they fear you, the people of Iran, even more, Netanyahu said. They understand that 80% of Iranians despise them. Okay, so this 80% of Iranians despise the government. That wouldn't surprise me at all, but also like in the exact same way that you go about doing that survey, I would imagine you would get similar results in a lot of places that are much better than Iran, right? I think in general people are predisposed to focus more on the negative, and to, especially when it comes to power structures and authoritarianism and things that are well above their head and things that they don't have the ability to affect, but like are imposed upon them and they have to deal with. I would imagine that you would see a similar sentiment in many other countries, and that this may be just a natural human predisposition. It's not unique to Iran's badness or something. Sunday, Netanyahu said that regime change could certainly be the result of the campaign in Iran. So interesting. So we'll see if I have severely mixed feelings about this. I think this is one of those cases where, in theory, this is great, but in practical terms, it's just not going to be viable. It's not going to work. Only time will tell. I think we are very much on a path towards regime change, and the Islamic Republic, Iran as we know it, collapsing, and something else taking its place. I don't know what, whether that be an Israel/US installed puppet government, or the Iranian crown prince manages to get, a democratic democratic Iran up and running. Whatever it may be, we will see very soon. I think maybe in the next couple of days. If this wasn't all just chest puffing from from the Iranian leaders in Israel and the United States, then we might actually see some shit go down tomorrow or Friday. Thursday or Friday. Thursday, June 19th, or Friday, June 20th. Israeli air power reigns over Iran, but needs U.S. for deeper impact. Israel's command of Iranian airspace leaves few obstacles in the way of its expanding bombardment, though it will struggle to deal a knockout blow to deeply buried nuclear sites without the U.S. joining in the attack, experts say. While Iran has responded with deadly missile strikes on Israeli cities, Israel has shown its military and intelligence preeminence as its warplanes have crisscrossed the Middle East, hitting Iranian nuclear installations, missile stockpiles, scientists, and generals, among other targets. On Monday, several Israeli officials declared the establishment of air superiority over Iran. The military likened its control of Iranian skies to its command of the airspace over the arenas of conflict with Iran-aligned enemies, such as over Gaza and Lebanon, where Israel continues to bomb at will. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Monday Israel's control of Iranian airspace was a game changer. National Security Advisor Sachi Hanagbi said pilots could operate against countless more targets over Tehran, thanks to the destruction of dozens and dozens of air defense batteries. But even as Israeli officials laud the damage done so far, some publicly acknowledge Israel won't be able to completely knock out Iran's nuclear program unless the U.S. joins the campaign with strategic bombers that can drop ordnance with the potential to penetrate sites buried deep underground. Krieg said even the heaviest U.S. bunker-busting bombs might struggle to penetrate Iran's deepest sites in the event President Donald Trump decides to join the attack, suggesting special commando-style forces might be needed on the ground. Yeah, that would make sense. I would imagine with these bunker busters, even those are only able to penetrate so deep. And I mean, if these nuclear facilities are way up in the mountains, they could have that stuff so deep down in there that there's no way a bomb could ever hope to penetrate all the way down. But the thing is, with these like super deep, complex bunker-type facilities, you don't need to destroy the whole thing, right? If you manage to collapse, say it's 5 stories deep, and you manage to collapse the first 2 stories, it would be almost impossible for them to get down, or at least very, very difficult for them to get down to the further down stories where I would imagine they hold the more important, expensive equipment. And so you don't need to completely destroy the whole thing. You just need to. And so to the extent that that wouldn't completely destroy it, I guess what they're saying is you'd need to send in boots on the ground or something more to go in there and take out the rest of the equipment, and that the bombs are only going to be able to do so much. Nevertheless, Israel can act with impunity now, and they can do that in the way they did in Lebanon. Israel launched its campaign on Friday, saying Tehran was on the verge of building a nuclear bomb, something Iran has always denied seeking from its uranium enrichment program. While that totally makes sense. Yeah, in 2023, you were just going to 83.9% enrichment just for giggles. Just for giggles. You know, there's no other reason. It's just really funny. A senior Western defense source said Israeli warplanes have been refueling over Syria, a bastion of Iranian influence until Bashar al-Assad was toppled in December. Israel is now operating over Syria with near total freedom, the source said. Israel's assault bears echoes of last year's devastating offensive against Hezbollah in Lebanon, during which Israel wiped out the Tehran-aligned group's top command, including its leader Hassan Nasrallah, within the first days. Netanyahu on Monday did not rule out targeting Khamenei, saying doing so would end the conflict. How would it end the conflict? Wouldn't a new person just, take his place? A regional intelligence source said Israel had built a truly surprising network of agents in Tehran, likening the targeted killings of top officials to the blows directed at Hezbollah's leadership. The source said Israel's ability to penetrate Tehran from the inside had been astonishing. Okay, so this is what they were referring to, I guess. Maybe in part what that guy was referring to, we're going to have some operation that's going to make the pager thing look simple. Maybe it's just this super complex network of spies and double agents and whatnot within Iran and Tehran. That'd be pretty impressive if that was what they were referring to. Justin Bronk, a senior research fellow at the RUSI think tank in London, said Iran has few technical answers to the combination of Israeli F-35 aircraft capable of waging electronic warfare against its anti-aircraft systems, supported by F-16s and F-15s carrying precision-guided ballistic missiles. Though Israel was long assessed to have the upper hand, the speed, scale, and effectiveness of its strikes, particularly against top Iranian generals, caught many off guard, said Barin Kayuglu, a Turkish defense analyst. Iran's military appeared to have been sleeping at the wheel, he said. However, he cited challenges for Israel, saying its force could find it difficult to maintain the current tempo of its operations because of the need to replenish ammunition stocks and maintain warplanes. Iranian air defenses were damaged by Israeli strikes during exchanges of fire last year, Israeli officials said then. As last week's attack began, Israel said Mossad commandos on the ground in Iran destroyed more of Iran's anti-aircraft systems. Despite Israeli air supremacy, Israeli officials have acknowledged that Iran's nuclear program cannot be disabled entirely by Israel's military, emphasizing goals that fall short of its total destruction. If after the conflict ends, Iran retains a residual uranium enrichment capability, but not the people and facilities to do anything of concern with it, then this would be a major achievement, added the official. Trump has repeatedly said Iran could end the war by agreeing to tough restrictions on its enrichment program. The Iran nuclear deal. Sorry, got a Get the Iran nuclear deal out of my throat. Yeah, I think they have cough drops for those. So yeah, basically this aligns with my understanding that a lot of the equipment, especially these deep-hitting bunker buster bombs, are what's necessary for Israel to fully upend, fully destroy Iran's ability to create a nuclear weapon, and that probably is not possible without direct U.S. support, both in the forms of providing ordnance, support logistics, as well as U.S. ordnance and boots on the ground and whatnot. So Iran continues to just cry and whine about the fact that they are just getting absolutely bodied by Israel and destroyed, and there's nothing they can do, and that they, to some extent, brought this upon themselves. And so we continue. We continue Iran's crying, their whining about losing, and says Iran's leader rejects call to surrender, saying U.S. intervention would cause irreparable damage. Iran's supreme leader on Wednesday rejected U.S. calls for surrender in the face of more Israeli strikes and warned that any military involvement by the Americans would cause irreparable damage to them. Oh yeah, the U.S. is super scared of Iran and what they can do to them. That is not irreparable damage to them, bruh. Does Iran really think that they can threaten the U.S. and have it mean anything? It's like a 7-year-old going up to a bodybuilder and is like, "I'm gonna kick your ass," and the bodybuilder's like, "Sure you are, sure you are, son." The second public appearance by Ayatollah Ali Khamenei since the Israeli strikes began 6 days ago came as Israel lifted some restrictions on daily life, suggesting that the missile threat from Iran was easing. Yeah, it looks like an art project. Looks like somebody took a picture of the night sky in Tel Aviv and then just like drew a bunch of lines over it, and it's like abstract art. $10 million. Khamenei dismissed the threatening and absurd statements by Trump. Wise individuals who know Iran, its people, and its history never speak to this nation with the language of threats because the Iranian nation is not one to surrender, he said in a low-resolution video, his voice echoing. I love how this article puts, he said in a low-resolution video. Low energy, low-resolution Khamenei. I call him Little Khamenei. He's got low resolution. His cameras, they don't even go up to 720p. They're stuck on 480p. He's still, remember when you used to go on YouTube back in 2008? The highest bit rate you could do was 480p. That's where Khamenei lives. He lives back in 2005. He's living in old YouTube bit rate. I don't know why I think that's so funny. An Iranian diplomat had warned earlier Wednesday that U.S. intervention would risk all-out war. Another Iranian official said the country would keep enriching uranium for peaceful purposes, apparently ruling out Trump's demands that Iran give up its disputed nuclear program. The latest Israeli strikes hit one facility used to make uranium centrifuges and another that made missile components, the Israeli military said. Military officials said their defenses intercepted 10 missiles overnight as Iran's retaliatory barrages diminished. The UN nuclear watchdog agency said Israel struck 2 centrifuge production facilities in and near Tehran. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said the military also struck the headquarters of Iran's internal security forces on Wednesday, without specifying the agency or location. The strike marks a shift towards targeting Iran's domestic security apparatus, which has long cracked down on dissent and suppressed protests. The strike marks a shift towards targeting Iran's domestic security apparatus, which has long cracked down on dissent and suppressed protests. Ooh, to me that shows they're eyeing up something more. They're eyeing up regime change. They are at least sizing it up and giving it a serious consideration if they're starting to go after Iran's ability to quell protests or to quell dissent or whatever. Israel's air campaign has struck several nuclear and military sites, killing top generals and nuclear scientists. A Washington-based Iranian human rights group said at least 585 people, including 239 civilians, have been killed and more than 1,300 wounded. Iran has fired some 400 missiles and hundreds of drones in retaliatory strikes, killing at least 24 people in Israel and wounding hundreds. Some have hit apartment buildings in central Israel, causing heavy damage, and air raid sirens have repeatedly forced Israelis to run for shelter. Iran has fired fewer missiles as the conflict has worn on. It has not explained the decline, but Israel has targeted launchers and other infrastructure related to the missiles. It would totally make sense to me that if Iran does a super large-scale ballistic missile attack on Israel, and then Israel is like, shit, guys, we got to go in and do something about this, the first thing they're going to go after is Iran's ability to continue to shoot missiles at Israel. So yeah, it makes sense that as Israel goes in and gets air superiority and starts pimp-slapping starts bitch slapping Iran around a little bit, that they're going to not be able to shoot as many missiles at them. By Wednesday, Israel eased some of the restrictions that it had imposed on daily life when Iran launched its retaliatory attack, allowing gatherings of up to 30 people and letting workplaces reopen as long as there is a shelter nearby. Schools are closed and many businesses remain shuttered, but Israel's decision to reverse its ban on gatherings and office work for all but essential employees signals the Israeli military's confidence that its attacks have limited Iran's missile capabilities. Oh yeah, so if Israel is easing their internal restrictions and their internal security recommendations to, like, you know, be near a bomb shelter or not gather in big groups or whatever, if they're look, Israel, if there's one thing Israel takes seriously and the government and the military takes seriously, it is security and safety within Israel, right? They are very quick to turn on the sirens, to tell people to go into bomb shelters, to tell them to not gather in groups of 30 or more, whatever it may be. If they are easing up those restrictions already, that shows that it really, I think my assessment is 100% correct, that it really is truly GG with Iran, that they have complete air superiority, and that it's basically over at this point. Like, Israel could do whatever they wanted to Iran, and Iran can't resist it. And Iran can't meaningfully strike back on Israel at this point. Shops have been closed across Tehran, including in its famed Grand Bazaar, as people wait in gas lines and pack roads leading out of the city to escape the onslaught. Iran has long insisted its nuclear program is peaceful, although it is the only non-nuclear armed state to enrich uranium up to 60%. A short technical step away from weapons-grade levels of 90%. U.S. intelligence agencies have said they did not believe Iran was actively pursuing a bomb. When did they say that, though? This must not have been recent. Iran's ambassador to Geneva, Ali Bahraini, told reporters that Iran will continue to produce the enriched uranium as far as we need for peaceful purposes. Okay, so for peaceful purposes, I wonder if they're really cynically using the term peaceful in this regard, right? They're using it cynically in the sense that, like, well, when we have a nuke, people are going to be peaceful to us because they're not going to want to fuck with us. I think that's what they mean by peaceful. Israel closed its airspace to commercial flights because of the ballistic missile attack, leaving tens of thousands of Israelis stranded abroad. So yeah, this is basically Iran's getting owned, and this is they're crying about it. They're just whining about it, and that's where they're at. They're at the I'm just gonna whine stage. All right, so let's cover some domestic politics for the last 2 episodes straight. I've been nothing but covering Israel, Iran exclusively. So let's move to just some random piece of domestic news and cover that. I saw this come across my feed a few days ago, and it seems absolutely bananas. Let's see if this really is the case or if the headline is being clickbaity. Extremely disturbing and unethical. New rules allow VA doctors to refuse to treat Democrats and unmarried veterans. Doctors at the Department of Veterans Affairs hospitals nationwide could refuse to treat unmarried veterans and Democrats under new hospital guidelines imposed following an executive order by Donald Trump. The new rules obtained by The Guardian also apply to psychologists, dentists, and a host of other occupations. They have already gone into effect in at least some VA medical centers. Medical staff are still required to treat veterans regardless of race, color, religion, and sex, and all veterans remain entitled to treatment. But individual workers are now free to decline to care for patients based on personal characteristics not explicitly prohibited by federal law. Language requiring healthcare professionals to care for veterans regardless of their politics and marital status has been explicitly eliminated. Okay, wait. Language requiring healthcare professionals to care for veterans regardless of their political... Doctors and other medical staff can also be barred from working at VA hospitals based on their marital status, political party affiliation, or union activity, documents reviewed by The Guardian show. The changes also affect chiropractors, certified nurse practitioners, optometrists, podiatrists, licensed clinical social workers, and speech therapists. In making the changes, VA officials cite the president's January 30th executive order titled Defending Women from Gender Ideology Extremism and Restoring Biological Truth to the Federal Government. The primary purpose of the executive order was to strip most government protections from transgender people. The VA has since ceased providing most gender-affirming care and forbidden a long list of words, including gender-affirming and transgender, from clinical settings. They seem to open the door to discrimination on the basis of anything that is not legally protected, said Dr. Kenneth Kaiser, the VA's top healthcare official during the Clinton administration. He said the changes open up the possibility that doctors could refuse to treat veterans based on their reason for seeking care, including allegations of rape and sexual assault, current or past political party affiliation or political activity, and personal behavior such as alcohol or marijuana use. The Department of Veterans Affairs is the nation's largest integrated hospital system with more than 170 hospitals and more than 1,000 clinics. It employs 26,000 doctors and serves 9 million patients annually. In an emailed response to questions, the VA press secretary Peter Kasperowitz did not dispute that the new rules allowed doctors to refuse to treat veteran patients based on their beliefs or that physicians could be dismissed based on their marital status or political affiliation, but said all eligible veterans will always be welcome at VA and will always receive the benefits and services they've earned under the law. Well, no. It sounds like that's actually very much not the case. It sounds like this person is trying to reassure, oh, don't worry, veterans and people who access the VA will be able to get whatever care they want. But like, this whole article is literally them countering that. It's them saying, okay, well, we're going to allow you to come in. I wonder if he's saying this really cynically, right? He's saying, oh, they're allowed to come into the building, okay, but treating them, but treating them, oh, that's on the doctors, though. That's their personal choice. If they don't want to because you're wearing a Kamala Harris hat or a MAGA hat or something, that's their choice. That's what, I wonder if that's what he's trying to say. It is entirely conceivable with this rule change, though, that somebody tries to come in and get their like earned benefits and services from the VA, and then they come in and the doctor just refuses them for whatever reason, because they're unmarried, because they're a Democrat or Republican, or whatever the silly non-legally protected reason may be. And then that would literally be them not being able to receive the services or benefits they've earned under the law. I wonder if he's saying earned under the law because, like, well, it wouldn't be against the law for them to do that and blah, blah, blah. Like, I think this person is being really cynical. They have to be being cynical to try and defend this, because this is undefensible. It's insane. Until the recent changes, VA hospitals' bylaws said that medical staff could not discriminate against patients on the basis of race, age, color, sex, religion, national origin, politics, marital status, or disability in any employment matter. Now, several of those items, including national origin, politics, and marital status, have been removed from the list. Similarly, the bylaw on decisions regarding medical staff. So is he arguing that, like, it's just a formality to remove those protected statuses from the list? That's literally what he's arguing. How would that be just a formality, though? That's insane assertion. Completely so cynical, purposeful obfuscation. Similarly, the bylaw on decisions regarding medical staff membership no longer forbids VA hospitals from discriminating against candidates for staff positions based on national origin, sexual orientation, marital status, membership in a labor organization, or lawful political party affiliation. Dr. Arthur Kaplan, founding head of the Division of Medical Ethics at New York University's Grossman School of Medicine, called the new rules extremely disturbing and unethical. It seems on its face an effort to exert political control over the VA medical staff, he said. What we typically tell people in healthcare is, you keep your politics at home and take care of your patients. Kaplan said the rules opened the door to doctors questioning patients about whether they attended a Trump rally or declining to provide healthcare to a veteran because they wore a button critical of J.D. Vance or voiced support for gay rights. Those views aren't relevant to caring for patients. So why would we put anyone at risk of losing care that way, Kaplan said.